I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm Jim Coggle, and I live in that same spot.
Oh, okay.
He's my partner up there.
It is 10:30 and time to call to order the scheduled irregular board meeting of the Hazel. Special, as opposed to irregular, I guess. I get irregular shirt sizes and special. All right, enough of that. So the meeting is called to order at 10:30. We certainly enjoy having company with us this morning. And we're going to talk specifically about two issues. And Joan will be leading us through that activity. So, is there anything anybody needs to say before we begin?
I would just like to ask a question in regards to the boundary of the Hazeldell Fire District. Is there a map? I mean, I just haven't.
There is a map out in.
So it's probably the Forest Service boundary as in private land and the Forest Service boundary.
I can show you after the meeting. It's up at the front,
Okay.
next to the front door.
Okay, I was just curious.
And then if there's questions, we can try to address it.
Great,
I
thank
think
you very
there's
much.
actually a map in the lobby of the post office too.
Okay. All right.
Some other questions. So I'll second whatever that was.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, I think we ought to talk loud
Okay.
because we muffle by this.
Yeah, plus we're.
And my hearing is failing and I don't know, yours may be gone already.
It looks like we're all over 50, so yeah.
Okay, talk loud and it'll be okay.
All right.
Okay. My understanding, we're gonna talk about a quarry of some kind here in a minute.
That was one of the items that Joan had in mind. Yes.
Yeah,
She'll
and I'd
cover
like
that.
to talk about that at some point.
No, that's the
But-
purpose of the meeting, the quarry thing and the, whether or not we need to be pursuing COVID funding for the.
Grant.
One of my questions, of course, is how many people in here have actually worked in the quarry? Besides myself.
Worked in one?
Worked in one, yeah.
I have up at Washington State, I worked out of a pug mill, I mean, it was like all in office, out of a portable pug mill. But I mean,
This is a rock quarry, right?
Correct.
Worked in a rock quarry?
I go battle hack, so I never worked right in one with it around the pressure and stuff.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we can incorporate that into the discussion that Joan lead us through on that.
Right. Right, there's already some there's room for public comment in the discussion. You got the agenda?
Yes, I do have the agenda.
Okay, so the quarry issue is something that I brought up that the district might want to address, and this is up to the board, whether they want to submit something. So I came up with a draft response that would be going to the Land County Board of Supervisors as comments on the old Hazeldell Quarry. Now, this is confusing because we are the Hazeldell Rural Fire District, and this quarry adopted the Hazeldell name, which doesn't please too many people that are against the quarry, that they use their name. In any case, is there anyone not familiar with the quarry issue? I could just give a little bit of history on it.
Why don't you do that and what documents we've got to address and what they're asking for? I think it would be helpful for everybody to
Okay.
get tuned in.
I'll give you a little, and I'd like to introduce Linda McMahon, who's been one of the people at the center of the group called Save TV Group, which is responding to the issues on the quarry and has hired attorneys and spent some money and done a lot of work
Went to appeals at the state
to
level.
try to keep the, so no matter where you stand on the issue, I'm gonna try to give you just a brief history, and Linda can fill in if I'm not accurate or leave something out. So this started about 5 years ago, and the city mayor and councilors were approached by people representing the quarry, including probably the attorney and the consultants for the city and the owners. We don't know. That was kind of a hush-hush thing. It was private, secret. The public didn't know about it until they sent letters to those people who lived close enough to the quarry that they would be impacted by the quarry, things that were happening during the quarry mining. And those people are in a certain radius of the quarry, including the fish hatchery. And so a number of people got together to look into these plans, and they were kind of really upset by what they saw and what those impacts would be in their area. So that Stunning Road, and you live up on Roberts Ranch Road.
Correct.
And as I said, the fish hatchery and the area around Industrial Park probably would be.
Yeah, the input is approximately 5 miles.
Right. So, so I'm part of that impact area. So this does affect me. I'm just letting you all know. But I'm now, at this point, talking as a member of the Hazeldell Rural Fire District to see what the impact is might be to the fire district. This is the first time that Lane County Land Management Division actually sent the letter telling the Hazeldell Fire District what is happening and what are that they have an opportunity to comment. In the past, we were not included in that, even though the quarry is within the district. And if you don't know where it is, it's the first mountain, small mountain, right behind the fish hatchery, to the east of the fish hatchery, and you can see it very well from East First Street. You just look up there to the east, and you could see it. And that's what they're proposing to mine. So this group of individuals, including Ed King, who is the owner of the King Estates Winery, carefully crafted their campaign to gain acceptance from the city of Oak Ridge and its leaders. And the leaders never responded to this. This is possibly a failure on their part that they were kind of overwhelmed by the lobbying and the efforts of the quarry group. However, the local citizens looked at the detailed plan and the area and depth of the quarry, the impacts to what they could hear, vibrations of the blasting, the traffic plan of the to take the rock out, which includes about 8 or 12 double trucks an hour going each way to and from the quarry.
Predicted 80 trucks
Down
per day.
Fish Hatchery Road, and through the city of Oak Ridge to Eugene, to
Okay.
Highway 58. I mean to I-5. So the quarry, but actually the plan that was approved by the county, they don't have to look at Highway 58 because that's a state highway. So they didn't even, that wasn't even part of something that needed to be approved, how it went through Oak Ridge, traveled through Oak Ridge. It was only the road that took it to Highway 58. So anyway, then we looked at the tonnage and the term of that the quarry would operate for 50 years. I think it's 6 days a week for maybe 10 hours a day. So this Safe TV Butte was the name, an old name for this mountain because there was a TV antenna on it. And Safe TV Butte hired consultants and an attorney, and Land Watch, Lane County got involved. They didn't I don't know that they directly worked on it, but they kind of helped with some of the issues. Oh, and they funneled money.
They consulted.
They were, public money. So, I mean, no, private money to Land Watch. Okay, so what happened then in 2018, the County Board of Supervisors approved the quarry plan. as presented. The group Save TV Butte appealed, and the appeal went all the way up to the State Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA. And it actually went up there twice. It came back and then it went up there again. And each time, Save TV Butte won against this quarry group. And they've been quiet since then. But they have a chance to come back, which they're doing now, the quarry group, to correct their plan in certain areas. And they've come back. I haven't seen that plan. We didn't get much chance in, less than 3 weeks to look at this. But there is a list in the notice of the hearing. This hearing is happening next Tuesday with the Lane County Board of Commissioners. And it allows opportunity for comment. And that's what I was trying to see here, whether the board has, what I've looked at and wrote up, whether the board accepts that and would say that we'd like to be part of this, give testimony. We don't have to give testimony in person. We could write the letter to the county commissioners and to the Lane County Land Management Division, and that's how we provide the testimony. But it has to be in soon, like by Monday. Correct. Monday?
Monday's the time limit.
Okay. So that's what's happening now, and there are limited areas that we can comment on, and that is that is one of the problems. And if you haven't seen this letter, you can see this letter and see the area of the quarry.
Joan, I have it on the screen too,
Okay.
so they can see
Okay,
it.
right.
Just tell
So
me,
scroll up to the second page.
second page?
Yeah. And you see that the,
That's the third page.
Oh, sorry.
go on.
Apparently, it's a double-sided document, so you probably didn't do that.
Well,
That's page 3 right
There, there, okay.
Well,
So
that's
there's 7 items, and you're at number 5.
that's
Oh, no.
page 3.
No, you're too far.
Hang on, I'm just trying to see.
Oh.
Okay. So evidently it didn't scan the entire document. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was double-sided.
Okay. So there's 7 items that are allowed to be commented on. And one item is conflict with big game. Big game is the elk. The elk herd use that mountain and that whole area up there. That's one of the conflicts. So if anybody has testimony that that's a bad thing, that their plan doesn't meet the,
Or
They
a
could
good
comment
thing,
on
Joan, we can
the
be-
other things. Now, the one I selected was that the only one that I could think of that Hazeldell as a board might have an issue with is the impact to groundwater from the quarry. We don't know exactly what that will be. The quarry will be, as it's dug out, it will be getting rainwater and holding it in there. They plan to use 5,000 gallons of water per day to hose down the area to keep the silica dust down and probably wash their equipment with that. So that 5,000, where's that 5,000 gallons of water coming from? They have no wells that take the water out. They can't find water on the site. So the possible source of that water is from the city's a water tank that they allowed to be built on their property, corner of their property. And they might propose to the city that they purchase 5,000 gallons a day. Well, I counted it up, added it up, multiplied it, and it looks like that's about 1.5 million gallons a year. That's a heck of a lot of water. They would be taking that from the city, but also they would be disposing of it. And I think that's the issue that we need to be thinking about, because that's the only one that we're allowed to comment on now, is the disposal of that water, where it will go. Will it contain silica dust? Will it go into groundwater? Will it get into the city's aquifer for their water drinking?
Or the residences of it.
Right.
Could
No, the
affect them
residents,
too.
right.
Yeah.
And actually, the people that were involved with the anti-quarry group were told that they could lose their groundwater eventually. They could lose the water that supplies them with drinking water for their houses, because all the water could just flow down and go into the quarry as it's dug out. So that's an issue for us, but that's not something we can comment on
That's
here.
right.
So so you can skip to my proposed comments, and if you haven't seen them yet, I sent them out to the board. And, so this is my proposed response at this time, and it's up to the board, and it's up to, the public. Maybe we could let the public comment first, and then the board can comment. So if you haven't read that, I could make copies just for people to read it. So I leave that to you, for your thinking and reading.
Yes.
I'd like to ask the residents up there what they think, how Hazeldell Fire District could support them in certain ways. I'd like to hear what you say about that.
How I believe that the Hazeldell Fire District can support me as a landowner in the area, or as it impacts the quarry, or as the quarry. Okay, could I give my public testimony now? Okay,
Joan, are you at a point where that's?
I'm at a point that I'm releasing it to the public comment to this board right now for anything anyone wants to say.
Yeah, I think those here.
okay.
Are you
My name is, I don't have to stand, do I? My name is Linda McMahon. I live at 48963 Roberts Ranch Road. My land borders the United States Forest Service on one end, on the east end. My credentials, or my speaking, I worked for the United States Forest Service for 30 years in fire management. I was the aviation logistics coordinator in California. I also taught at the national level in the National Fire Danger Rating in Marana, and also in fire behavior. So I have some knowledge in fire management and fire control and prediction. So my impact, I think, as a landowner next to the quarry, and I think other landowners, would be the water use. If the city does allow them to use that 1 million gallon tank, I assume that I was told, and I could be wrong, that it was for firefighting for the industrial park to begin with. Okay, 1 million gallon tank, and then it was going to evolve into drinking water. Okay, that's great. That's a great use of 1 million gallons. If that quarry operates, they can take 5,000 gallons a day, but they can take as much as they want, or they can buy as much as they want. If we have an incident where we are going to need that water, we pull that water from a hydrant or hydrants at the industrial park. That's my concern. The use of their water when us not having enough water. If we get a Mackenzie Bridge event, 1 million gallons isn't going to be enough. Of course, they probably would shut them down also, but that's my concern, the water use. The water use was intended for firefighting, intended for drinking, and I think that would be a waste, and not being available to the Hazeldell Fire District for firefighting at a time. That's my main concern for that.
Okay, there are other concerns? This would be a good time to voice them.
Thank you.
I got, my wife, my name is Louis Pokorny, and my wife and I live at 49153 Dunning Road, and we're within the 1,500-foot boundary of the quarry boundary. My concern is our domestic drinking water being disturbed, and what kind of recourse there is after the fact that they decide to open that up and use dynamite up there and change the course of our drinking water that we have now, which is adequate for our domestic use at this time. Also, that amount, 5,000 gallons of water, that's nothing. in the sense that my judgment on that would be, I have driven water tankers before, slip in for the Forest Service and then full-size 3,500 gallon tanks. And 3,500 gallon tank run out of a spreader bar on a gravel road when we were maintaining roads for the Forest Service. 3,500 gallons doesn't go anywhere. It's very little water once you spread it out on the crown of a gravel road. And so those people talking about 5,000 gallons of water, that's nothing. And if Joan were to do the math over again, I think the accurate, I don't have an accurate amount what they're gonna want,
You're gonna want more than 5.
but 5,000 gallons of water for dust abatement is nothing. And on a hot day, it's gone, because I've done it, I've seen it myself. But, and my concern is our drinking water. They're lying to you about 5,000 gallons a day, which I've worked around that equipment. And once in a while, they'll have a little mist going up around the crusher to keep the dust down. Look at sand and gravel up here, they're on a river bar. And you look up there in the late of the summer when they got that crusher going, and you can see the dust going up the river from the west prevailing wind in the afternoons. And we get it from the east in the morning, the wind, not every day, but generally every day. We get it from the east in the morning, and then from noon to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we get it from the west. And if we get it from the west, it's going to be from their processing up there, processing rock and their haul roads. I'm just against it at this time. The dust abatement thing, that's not going to happen. I've been around enough of this equipment my whole life. I worked on it, maintained it, and I've been around gravel trucks and crushing equipment, repair work on all this equipment, from road graders to crusher equipment, conveyors, and gravel hacks or dump trucks. But that's it for me. Just I'm number one is the silica dust and our drinking water. I know that if something would happen to it, by the time you try to go through our attorneys and sue them, it's a lost cause, because by the time you dump out your Social Security check, one after another like that, it's all for nothing. You're just giving them your Social Security check. And my wife and I aren't in that financial area. We do okay like we are, but that has a lot to do with it too. They're just beating us to death with attorney fees out this last go around. So I thought we went to Luba. They told them no twice, and they're back down here again. They've been given something that's perfectly good, and they just want to go up there and destroy it and pollute the area. Pollute the area where we live, relatively quiet and peaceful setting. And I guess that's enough for today. You know, that's about all I got to say.
Thank you. Other comments?
Okay, so having worked as a crusher operator,
Oh, what's your name, please?
my name is Vernon Beard. I live up on Brock Road.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but having worked as a crusher operator in a quarry, yeah, they can miss the hoppers and whatnot and the crushers, but keeping the dust down on the perimeter, the roads and things like that, for an operation the scale of what I'm hearing is probably going to take at least 3 5,000 gallon tankers a day. That's just the start, and just keep the dust on the roads down. Okay. So far as the silica goes, silica is a rock product. It's sand. It's in the bottom of your well. It's in the bottom of the river naturally. Okay. So far as contaminants like oil and things like that, they can put basins underneath the gearboxes and the generators to keep that stuff from going into the ground. They can also put a maintenance shop out there with an oil trap in it for when they're working on the rigs. And at that point in time, they have to take that water and filter it so that the oil stays where it's supposed to. And then they can take it out and dispose of it by burning it or other processes that are approved. So the noise factor, when the dynamite goes off, there is a little jump on the ground. If they do it right, it just cracks the wall and it falls. And they're only going in about 3 or 4 feet at a time when they do that. So it's not a huge, big boom. It's a muffled boom, but it does have a vibration to it. As to the groundwater, yes, it can affect it because we don't know where the groundwater goes. Where it comes from underneath, we can't see it. So there's that possibility. And basically what I'm saying is all of these factors need to be factored in. You're also looking at, do you have new jobs in the area or don't you? So figuring it all in is going to take a little time, but it's something to think about. A lot of this can be prevented so far as the contaminations and things like that goes, but some things just can't be filtered out. A little bit of noise can't be filtered out. A little bit of dust is going to be there no matter what.
Taking away 160 acres of wildlife habitat cannot be replaced.
I have a question.
Let's skip if there's other comments from the audience.
My name is Brian Crocus. I live at 48132 West Oak Road. I'm not in the impacted area. So I guess the only concern that I would bring up is the silica dust, which has been classified as a carcinogen. And I'm not convinced that their efforts to contain it are adequate. And my concern is that it'll be too late by the time we know there's a problem. And I guess with respect to the issues that we can comment on, that's the extent of it. You know, I'm not directly affected by the water problem, but as someone who lives in the area, if there were a big fire event, it could affect all of us. I believe I am in the district where I live. And I guess that's it. I'm curious, your overall, are you for this or against this? Or are you just saying we need to?
I'm saying that we need to look at all the factors and not just one or two.
Additional comments?
Yeah, well, I certainly, my name is Tim Coughlin. I also live in the impact area for 9483 Roberts Ranch Road, past the bank club up there. And yeah, it's not so much the, I agree with everything that was just said, but it's not so much the silica at the bottom of the rivers.
Up the volume a little bit.
Okay, it's the silica issue. It's not that it washes out into the bottom of our ponds and stuff. It's that it gets airborne. And I couldn't agree more at 5,000 gallons you're dropping the bucket. I mean, I retired as a fire operations division chief for the Forest Service, and so I'm used to large fires and that trying to get the dust down. But when I first heard that 5,000 gallons a day, it's like that's the biggest junk I've heard of. So that silicone dust is going to get up in the atmosphere and come down, but that might not affect this group. So you ask how you can help me as local residents. If you look at this remand statement, the purpose, I believe, of this county commissioners meeting, which is on a webinar, and it's either to approve or deny, or they have one other choice. What's the other choice? Modify. So this county commissioners can have this applicant modify, or they can deny it, or they can approve it. So the way that you can help me as a local resident is write a letter to the county commissioners and get it in before this meeting and say that you hope that they deny it based on the multitude of factors that some of them have been listed here, and they're all listed in that document. But just a final comment is I'm wondering if the hopes and dreams of this outside group that wants to come in here and do this to this small town. So if their plan comes to fruition, and there's a big growth of businesses, and the traffic will be wonderful, and it'll just be, that town will be booming. Is that reflected in your budget in any way, your upcoming budget, the increase in human caused wildfires that may occur in your response area? So anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay, Skip.
Got one more thing to add.
Oh, okay.
There was a concern about the water during a fire season. I think it would be wise to somehow get it put into the overall plan, that if there was a fire, that place shuts down and the water's ready for the fire department.
How fast is the tank gonna fill back up?
Okay. Other from the audience?
Just a couple, points in regards to the quarry.
One more time, please.
Oh,
Speak a little
Just a
louder.
couple points in regards to the quarry. Number one, there will be no maintenance on that site. Okay, so I'm just letting you know, there's no maintenance on that site because
If the truck breaks down, you're gonna have to tow it or maintenance.
they're gonna have to tow it because all of the trucks cannot stay on that site. There's no room. So the trucks are going to be coming from another area and they'll be driving home every night. Okay, that's what is in their plan. They won't have anything. Okay. Also, in the plan, there's no jobs coming to Oak Ridge. Maybe a few, like a security or something like that. All of the drivers will probably be contracted from Knife River, and all of the operators from Knife River. Mr. King doesn't own a crusher, but Knife River does. They've already tried to sell the land to Davidson's and Sand and Gravel, and they didn't want it. And so they're probably going to sell the land in Knife River after if they get it free. We went to Lula twice. It's been 6 years since we've done this. All of the items in this have been looked at by many officials, many experts in the field, attorneys, and private citizens. A land use management board, again, we've won the appeals twice. Okay, the land use management state board said that this is not a good thing to have because of several reasons. So we've gone through this. The only reason that the applicant can do this again is because they're starting all over. They're starting over from the initial plan because the Board of Appeals denied their application twice. Okay, so they went back and redid their application. And in their application, they said they've corrected the 7 items. They say they can mitigate groundwater. They can mitigate air. That's what's going to be presented on Monday at the hearing, if you want to see what they're going to do to mitigate the air quality. Noise, they're saying that they're going to mitigate that. They're also saying that they want to change F1, F2 land, which that is QM, which is quarry mining. Okay, if you do that, and I know this is going to get complicated, but in the Goal 5, which is your resource inventory for your county, it says that you need a certain amount of acres for wildlife habitat. If you remove F1, F2 land, you're removing that habitat that's already on the books in Lane County. Also, they didn't do what is called a environmental assessment for the other resources in the area. They did not do their assessment on how it's going to impact the town, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I know this meeting is for the concern. My concern is the water use. They go ahead and do that, like 5,000 is the minimum, they drain that tank. Yeah, firefighting shut down, but what if that tank's almost empty? How long does it take to fill that tank? I don't know. Also, the city, they didn't allow the city to put that 1 million gallon tank where it is. The proposal from the city was to put that 1 million gallon tank where the old crusher was, because that's a hazmat site. Okay, that's a hazmat site where the quarry is proposing to put their crusher. The city wanted to put the 1 million gallon tank there because if you put a 1 million gallon tank on top of an unstable site, it probably will stay there because there's no movement. If you put a crusher on top of that site, there's going to be movement under the ground And the city of Oak Ridge is responsible for any spills or hazmat from that site. Zimmerman is the one who sold them that land for $122,000. Knowing fair well that in the deed there was a covenant that said they couldn't operate on that site. They went around it, built the road. Taxpayers of Oak Ridge incurred extra costs to build that road from Dunning Road out a quarter mile over to wetlands out to that new tank.
Thank you. Skip, you,
Well, I have a question about, it sounds like heavy truck traffic. Is it gonna be running down Dunning Road? Is that where it's gonna be running down?
That is correct.
Is that road heavy enough to handle all that truck traffic? I don't think it is.
It is not.
And it's maintained by the county, right?
And it's too narrow.
And it's too narrow, right? I don't think that road is sufficient to handle that truck traffic.
That is correct. Apparently the fire chief said that when they did the new opening, and he said that was adequate in the state. Now, it's city road from the train tracks down to Fish Hatchery Road. That's a city part. Now, and the city has said that they will not meet their standards, which the city standards in a city to build roads is to put those curbs. So they're going to probably allow if the quarry goes in, they will allow the quarry to put in that road. The city was in bed with the quarry. That's my opinion.
okay, other questions from board members?
Okay, well,
Take on.
if you're done with questions, if you have a chance to look at this and anybody want to think I need to beef anything up in here, and if the board is agreeable, that would, that they could vote, have a motion to approve this, that I send this to the commission. But as the board, that these are Hazeldell Rural Fire District comments. But I just did this yesterday, and so if there's anything that needs to be changed, I hope you looked at it and maybe that it needs to be improved a little bit.
Okay, Joan, I would entertain a motion to approve that, then we can have a discussion about that
Okay.
after we have a motion on the floor.
I'll make the motion.
Sure,
Is that okay?
second to the motion.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board support a letter to the county commissioners commenting on the impact of the proposed activity on water quality, water supply, and hopefully during the, so that's the motion, right?
Yes.
Okay, now we're open for discussion.
My concern is that we need to support the residents up there, flat out. But how we do it and what elements we can really address is going to be something that has to be in that letter, and you have some of it. But there's some other things up there that are equally important. The groundwater issue that was brought up, that's important. So we need to address support of the issues that have been raised by the residents without getting into all that detail. Our concern is the traffic on the road if we have to respond to an emergency. I think the idea about use of water, you use water trucks to fight any rural fires, and that's where your areas are. But they have to be refilled. So that issue applies to us. The use of that, I don't know, the city has got to come forward and say something here about these issues. Can they supply water to them without compromising their support of fire service and the city's residents. So those are things that we're not fully qualified to respond to. Now, how you put that into words is what we're gonna have to work on. So, I would say that the letter ought to be framed that outlining our issues, which are water and the road access in the event of an emergency. And those two we can address. And the other issues, which are equally important, we would say something like, we also are in support of the residents' concern in these other areas that need to be resolved. I thought they had been resolved, but when you say that they have mitigating plans, how much mitigation are you gonna get?
That's right.
Do you know that?
No, we do not know until Monday.
And that's
Tuesday,
important.
I'm sorry.
I mean, they could say, we'll have fans to blow all this silica dust up. And then the current will take it over somewhere else.
That's right. That's where.
You know, that's not an answer.
But that doesn't affect the Hazeldell district
No, it doesn't.
providing its services to its.
Now, Joan, that's the issue, concern I might have. I'm not minimizing the impact on people that live in the impacted area.
All right.
I'm also looking at what is the legitimate role of Hazeldell Fire District. We represent all of the citizens of the district, not just a particular area or particular interest set. And I think if you come right down to strain and gnats, what are the issues that affect our ability to meet our obligation to the citizens of the district? As John said, most of our water supply comes from tenders and we restock. And so listening to the issues, they're certainly real and they're important, but they're not really germane specifically to Hazeldell Fire District and to the diverse values of people who live in it. So I have a cautionary note that it's maybe individuals we should or could assume right to the county, but I'm not sure it's the responsibility or a legitimate use of whatever influence the Hazeldell Board of Directors might have, because I don't see how it really specifically issues that affect the rural fire district.
Well, I would say, and then let me say something, that I was hearing the letter towards the fact that we might run out of water, not have water to fight fires because of the chlorine operations. They take all the water and there's nothing left for our operations. And that's.
I would think the likelihood of that is minuscule. As they're pumping water out, they're also pumping water in. And the water network in the city, there's 5 or 6.
No, they're not. They pump it at night.
Is that when they're recharging it?
Well, yeah, it's mixed. Yeah, because they do it. It's cheaper.
Well, I know that all of the reservoirs in the city of Oak Ridge are interconnected.
Right.
And I just assumed, and maybe incorrectly, that reservoir was also connected into the general water supply system.
No,
of the
it's
city
not
of Oak
into the
Ridge.
drinking water yet. That's
It's a unique function just to meet the needs of industrial
firefighting.
park.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what was proposed is fire. Now, if it's changed in the city, they haven't notified the public. Firefighting and supplying water to the industrial park.
okay, I wasn't clear about that in my.
Well, that's what the city told me.
You know, the only way that you could really relieve the city of that is for the quarry to get a water use permit for the river source. One time we had,
Yes, you can't do that
we
anymore.
had this industrial park, we had a
You just can't walk down the river.
water permit. And
Yeah.
they were doing the kind of things Mr. Beard talked about. the water is available, but it would be up to the quarry to put in pumping stations and get that settled, and that would completely relieve you of that concern. But anyway, that's their business.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, Herb, that we've got to couch this in a way that we can support without taking a position on issues which we have no real direct concern with. So maybe we need to rewrite.
Well, what issues did I say that,
Well,
I didn't
it's-
take up the silica dust or anything like that. I didn't talk about the elk, the habitat, the silica dust,
That's right.
the traffic plan. That's already, their traffic plan has already been approved. Whether we like that or not, there's nothing we can do about it.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Can I point out one sentence? Linda, you pointed this out to me the other day, so
Yeah.
hopefully we can get to it, but is that on the second page or the first page of that remand letter?
Of her letter, or which one do you want?
The remand letter.
I got that right here if you want to look for it. He was missing the second page.
Yeah.
The silica, you guys keep talking about, that's really what sand is, which is the silicon dioxide.
Yeah, it's very partially.
So it's sand is what you're talking about?
Well,
I
silica,
mean, when you use
When you
silica,
crush andesite
Silica
rock,
dust.
it turns into silica dust.
but that's
Microscopic,
sand dust, right?
Well,
I mean,
finer
the
than
dust
sand.
is silicon dioxide.
much finer than sand. It's airborne. You cannot see
So
it.
this is totally irrelevant, but I'm
Yeah,
curious.
no, I understand.
Does the sand change from being silicon dioxide into both a dioxide and the silicate?
Correct. When you would crush it, it would do that.
It's chemically changes.
It's not going to
I find that hard to
chemically, it's
believe.
going to separate. It's going to separate. The molecules will separate.
Well,
into
it's
their-
smaller particles of silicon
That's
dioxide,
correct.
but it's still silicon dioxide, not silicon.
I'll get out of the way if I could just read this one thing. It says, this,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, no, I
not
understand.
understanding. Curiosity.
Right.
this is the second page of this remand letter, and it says, this remand application, which is the mine application, this remand application necessitates a public hearing with the Lane County Board of Commissioners to approve, modify, or deny the applicant's applications based on the review of issues and the LUBA remand orders. So it says that this county Board of Commissioners can approve, modify, or deny based on these issues. And so what we didn't have there is these are the limited issues of the remand. So this is the first four here. And on number 4, it's silica dust. So to your question, how much has this been dealt with? It's been dealt with a lot, but it's interesting that the silica dust is on number 4. So if you want to review 1 through 7 to see which one is particular to, might be applicable to be in your wheelhouse, that's it right there. Other than that, you'd be saying like, I don't like it because of aesthetics or something like that. But here's the 7 things that they're gonna really care about, which is kind of scary that this is, they could approve it. And I mean, Google open pit mine, the phrase open pit mine, what this is on Google, and look at what pops up. The very first picture. Oh my God, this is an open pit mine right here. I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing project.
So my view is that the fire district has an obligation to protect the resources that it has now to provide services to its residents and the properties in this area. And if we don't speak up to protect the water that we have to use and put in our takers for protecting those properties, then we've lost that war. And we have a better voice as a group than individuals do, or who might speak to it. I think the Hazeldell as a board has a better say. So that's my spiel, and that's it. You can take it where you want, but
I don't
I had to try.
Quick comment if I may.
Yes,
The connection between Hazeldell and the city of Oak Ridge is not only rural fire protection and city fire protection, but I'm with the understanding that Hazeldell pays a couple of premiums a year. I've been to a few of these meetings to the city of Oak Ridge. Now, I would like to know why the city of Oak Ridge doesn't want to cooperate, or if they are doing things behind the taxpayers' back, because I am one, and my wife and I, and some of the others that are in that rural fire protection area are paying taxes the way I understand it. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I way understand it. There were 2 payments a year, what I understood. Now, why aren't we getting cooperation from the city of Oak Ridge? Fire protection, ambulance service, and I'm for all this, having services. But if they're dragging their feet and not want to cooperate with the residents for joining this, a fight against this. Now, I'm all for jobs. But anybody that's ever been around in this dirty, filthy equipment running this crushing rock any time in their lifetime, which I've been around all this mechanical stuff my whole life, and it's a filthy thing that they got going out there. And I'd like to see more cooperation from the city. If rural Hazeldell is funding some of the city services as a not a trade-off, but a cooperative type thing. And if that's ever been brought up, do they just get so much money for renting this room for Hazeldell to have their meetings? Or what's the grounds for the amount of money? It's never been clear to me. What's the grounds of the amount of money that Hazeldell provides for the city and the overall everything that for Hazeldell putting that money out?
Let me just respond briefly to that. And is that Hazeldell does have an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Oak Ridge. And they provide us a fire chief. They provide us engines and equipment and personnel for the suppression of fires on the Hazeldell Rural Fire District. Currently, we would not have the resources in the Hazeldell Rural Fire District without the cooperative agreement of the city of Oak Ridge. Now, the city of Oak Ridge is short of resources to meet all of our needs, but when Hazeldell was formed, we had the, maybe it turns out in hindsight, the unrealistic expectation that there would be volunteers from the rural area that would want to be part of the Hazeldell Rural Fire Protection District. To date, we've had very, very limited participation by members of the who live in the district. The money we pay to the city goes to pay a portion of the chief's wages and a portion of the costs of running this fire station. When the bill goes off, the people that drive an engine out of here are Oak Ridge employees and some volunteers, but it's getting more and more to being paid employees. And so nobody wants, I certainly don't want to be paying taxes for stuff we don't get. But on the other hand, the board has a responsibility of providing fire protection for the district. And the best deal we've been able to get so far is through cooperating with the city of Oak Ridge and to a lesser degree with West Fur. And it's turned out to be for the mutual benefit of the city, for the rural district, and for West Fur. I hope that clarifies.
With your protection zone would, your protection zone would then include this new mining operation.
If it's in the rural fire district, it would.
Right, and is an operation of this size right here under your responsibility, have you seen any increase in equipment or help with, this is an enlargement of your responsibility, or it seems like that would be reflected somehow in your ability to meet the increased demand.
unless they have put a house there and have you know, something that, I don't know if, what kind of building would qualify as if they have to pay.
So you only have structure protection, you have wildland protection?
What?
You don't have wildland protection? You just have structure
No.
protection?
I'm s-
Structure protection only? Or you have
Yes.
wildland protection and structure protection?
it's structure protection. The state of, people pay forest land taxes to the Oregon Department of Forestry
okay.
for
Yeah.
wildland fires, as the Forest Service also has a wild.
So you
Where
live.
this gets touchy is where a structure fire
I know.
threatens a natural setting, or where a natural setting affects structures.
But if they didn't have a structure, that would be in your wheelhouse.
That would be the Forest Service or the ODFW's responsibility.
For fire, and for EMS, city.
EMS also.
EMS is Lane County, not the city.
For what?
City.
For if the quarry site, the quarry site,
It would be us.
Quarry fire?
you guys,
The quarry site, is it in the city?
no, the quarry is on the urban growth boundary.
Okay, well, so if it's not in the city, then we would have structure responsibility. The ODF would have wildland fire responsibilities, and they have cooperative agreements with the Forest Service.
For EMS. Whose responsibility is it for emergency response?
It would be in the Oak Ridge's ambulance service area.
Okay, so you guys have, mass casualty event out there.
Yeah, the Oak Ridge Service for the medical goes from just slightly east of Lowell all the way to Willamette Pass.
Yeah, our ambulance service area is milepost 17 to milepost 62, the county line.
And is there a plan for a large industrial site in the works if it goes in?
No,
What kind of mass casualty event?
Oh, I don't know, crusher blowing up, rolling over, a big dump with a pony on it, rolling over on some guys, blasting,
Railroad accident.
railroad accident.
Well, as you're probably all aware, the city is struggling right now.
Oh, I
They
know.
want to fund and manage the ambulance service district. But it's in the ambulance service district, so the city currently has a responsibility to respond with medical response.
Correct.
How that plays out in the long run is cards we haven't turned over yet.
And this is a general problem throughout all of Oregon, in that rural districts are struggling to get volunteers, and they don't have enough money
Oh, I understand. I believe me, I understand.
to provide supplements and things like that. So, and by the way, when you fight a rural fire, Oak Ridge did not have the equipment to support fighting a rural fire. And when we joined with them, we purchased the 3,000 gallon tankers. We brought the water to the fire source. Now, those have been used by Oak Ridge as well as in rural fires. So it's been a partnership and a very good one,
Is it mutual aid or,
mutual aid
so how many?
also.
it's not really mutually because we're one department. So Hazeldell doesn't get dispatched separately than Oak Ridge. It's Oak Ridge gets dispatched and we respond.
We have an intergovernmental agreement with the city.
Intergovernmental, okay, so.
And so does West
there's no free
Ford, by the way.
time doing that.
Yeah, what's that?
We all
Like
have
24,
three units.
24, something like that.
I have a suggestion along with the letter. I think we need to consider taking the detail out, but cover the main subject. What I mean by that is not cover the amount of water usage and things like that, other than to point out, because they know that better than we do. They know what that water usage is. And support our points of roadway and water source. So we need to kind of do some massaging on this, and then I would recommend that we address it and that we want to.
Yeah, John, Linda can help me with this, but I don't think the roadway or the water source are going to be, are issues that they want comment on. They have already approved that as planned. It's the water runoff or what happens to the water.
Well, yeah, and that's the residents' issue. It's not ours.
Commenting as a fire district, just for an example, you could comment as a fire district that the approval of this quarry and the installation of this quarry will have an impact on Hazeldell Rural Fire District. That's basically, you're saying that yes, it will have an impact. You're not saying it's negative impact, or you're not saying if it's a positive impact, but it will impact. And the implications of that impact are just what he said. No, there's no plan in the future if there's a mass casualty event. No, there's no plan in the future if there's a fire that comes out of that thing. But it does have an effect on you guys, as well as all the residents. But you're right, commenting on the individual things, the groundwater, is not applicable.
That's right.
It's applicable, I think, as a fire district to say, this will have an effect on us it'll have an effect on our response times. It could have an effect on our response time. It could have an impact on our water usage, what we use it for. And it's definitely, if it goes in, it's going to have an effect on our budget and what's going to happen to the area and our ability to respond as a district.
And just, I'm not totally familiar with the geography, but it's only about a mile of road that could be shared commonly with the trucks hauling gravel and the apparatus going up to the fire hydrant. Is that correct?
From the output of where Dunning Road comes down to the Hatchery Road, and then that road goes out to Highway 58. So anywhere along that path.
Well, it's a double lane highway for everything but the Dunning Road, I think.
No, Highway 58 is not a double lane up there where they have to make the turn at Fish Hatchery. That closes at the top of the hill, and you have another, half mile before you get to Fish Hatchery Road.
So all along that whole route would be, I assume, your responsibility.
It's in, yes. I'm just thinking of the impact of the truck.
The impact, yes, the impact, truck roll over down that hill.
Well, or just in terms of one passing another, or our
Right.
ability to get an engine to a fire.
Yeah.
And we have about a mile of exposure. Is that,
I would say approximately a mile. From the
Yeah.
bottom.
not very darn far,
From
anyway.
Dunning Road to the mile. Yeah.
There's a mile marker right past the quarter corner, there on the top of the hairpin corner there.
Mhm.
There's a mile marker right there from the
Yeah.
Fish Hatchery Road.
1 mile. Right. Now, in addition, my concern is, and this isn't,
And
they
there's
don't
no way
care
out.
about this. They don't care about this. What happens on Highway 58? When you have a lot of traffic coming off the mountain from vacations, you have them towing boats and trailers and everything, and you can't even turn left there. What kind of traffic stoppage is going to happen when you have those double, what do they call it? The double truck?
Truck and a pup.
Truck and a pup. Truck and a pup.
Truck and a pump?
Yeah, truck, and then they hook a pup on and.
A pump, truck and a pump. Okay, right, truck and a pump, trying to turn left there, and they can't turn because the traffic is too,
Have you
Tightly
ever
spaced
seen a
coming
fire
down,
truck with red lights and siren that people won't stop and
Oh,
allow
yeah,
to make a
I
left turn?
have. I've been T-boned
I
in
have.
ditches, okay? So
Ambulance,
the impact is going to be when the truck and a pup pulls out on 58 and it smashes into a camper, you're going to be impacted by response, correct? I mean, you're gonna have to respond to that vehicle accident.
Yeah,
But that's not Hazeldell, that's the emergency service.
And then it has, there's structures right there. And across the road isn't in the city.
yeah.
So you're gonna have fire spreading to the structure and you're gonna have to respond then.
I don't have a contrary view to your interests.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm trying to do is look, what is the legitimate interest of the fire district?
And that's my comment too.
Can I comment on that? That's why, probably the simplest, I'm not recommending this, but I mean, the most direct, simple statement that you can say on a letter is, remember what they're dealing with. They can modify, approve, or disapprove of that. So that's what they're wrestling in. So, I mean, the minimum a letter could say is, I hope that at this point you modify this they, using their own language, based on the 7 issues in the remand letter, or whatever that sentence I read to you. It's just, so you don't even have to explain the nitty gritty of all this stuff. You're just saying, this is our position.
Yeah.
And our logic is within your 7 areas. But now if you want to get more nitty gritty on it, and I'm sorry, well, I got the floor. One more comment on, it's a diverse group. It was really interesting. I think it was it 2 years ago that we had a meeting at Eugene with the county commissioners. And they, at that meeting, they gave the last approval of this thing that went, then got appealed at Luling. But there was like about 30 or 40 townspeople from Oak Ridge. Every one of them, the residents, every one of them, no. There's one person saying that they were for the quarry in Oak Ridge, and they didn't live in Oak Ridge, and they were a mining employee from that company that runs that Dexter mine. So, yes, I would assume that it's diverse, but on this issue, now, of course, instead of asking you to say, we want you to modify this, you know, based on your own issues, you know, the residents, especially all around it, we have wells, you know, in that area. We hope that you're a little bit stronger on that for the denied position, but I understand it's that you might not want to go there if you don't feel like you're comfortable with all the issues.
Yeah,
I just did want to clarify one thing regarding mass casualty or major emergency. We don't have anything specifically for a potential rock quarry, but we do have things in place for a mass casualty. We do have a cache of years and years ago, there was a federal funding and we had like 100 backboards and all that stuff. So we do have capabilities to be able to handle a lot more patients than what we have care providers for. So
But
we do.
but no official plan in place.
Nothing specifically for the rock quarry.
let me,
Thank you.
or, Peter,
I'm wondering, in your paperwork there or your letter, have they addressed the issue of that mile or so of road as to how they're gonna beef that up to handle that traffic? Who's gonna be responsible for maintaining that road?
The city of Oak Ridge from the railroad down to,
City of Oak Ridge can't pave their own city streets.
well, that's the proposal and that's what the city has agreed to. It's in the paperwork. I mean, it's in the staff report. It's all-
So you're gonna overload the road out there and then expect the city to maintain it when they can't maintain their own public streets?
That's the problem that I have with it too. The city
Doesn't
has,
make sense. You
Yeah.
might want to address that in the letter.
I think the county has some responsibilities, and the Hazeldell had the experience when we built the High Point Station. The county required us to rebuild the road from the fire station out to the High Point Road.
Mhm.
And that road has hauled millions of board feet of timber and was a dang good road. What I'm saying is that if this isn't safe for truck traffic, the county has the authority, and they've been exercising it, to require the operator to bring it up to standard. So if the road doesn't meet safety standards, the county has, our experiences at any rate, required the people initiating the action to bring the road up to standards.
the county has
I think
already
that's what
approved the
he's-
traffic plan.
You don't see any, on the 7 things that they're still arguing about, you don't see traffic. Right? Traffic's not one of the issues.
Right.
You know,
It's been approved.
then.
Yeah.
Their plan has been approved. And that includes the city maintaining that stretch of land, that stretch of road from the railroad tracks down to the intersection of Fish Hatchery Road. The county has approved it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I wanted to see if the board was agreeable to restructuring the letter and just simply say the operation of the quarry, whatever we have responsibility for, will impact the district in the following areas: response time to EMS services, fire protection, water usage, and the roadway maintenance or blockage. Words similar to that, and ask that the letter be revised to reflect those things, and then we can approve it by email. But we gotta get it out. They want it to be
Well, by Monday.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing is that those issues are already been settled, you know, and they're not gonna be looked at. They don't care about those. Only the ones that the seven items.
only the 7
Yeah,
items. Well,
they don't-
we'll give them another one. to think
Any-
about.
Time out, let Eric been waving his arms.
I just wanted to point out, there was a motion and a second, so you're in the discussion of that
Okay.
to approve the existing letter. So if you want to change it, you'd have to, I think legally, you'd have to either, she'd have to withdraw her motion or that motion would have to fail to change that letter. I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted to make sure you guys stay
We
safe.
gotta follow the process.
I agree. So anyway, that ought to be the plan of action.
Okay, well, then if you want to make an amendment to the motion, that would keep us consistent process-wise. With the permission of the person who made the motion, we could amend it.
Okay, I
John?
don't know how to amend it, but I'll amend
Well, we
it. I
have-
withdraw the motion. And we,
Does it require the permission of the second to withdraw the motion?
I don't believe so.
I think you would have to, somebody has to approve the second, the amendment.
So where are we? Where?
and then
we-
I withdrew the motion. So I can't quite amend it. Then I move that the board draft a letter to the county commissioners and land management committee. And that they craft their own statement. And the board come up with a statement. And maybe 2 board members can work on this together. We can't have 3 unless we call a meeting.
Right. And then circulate it.
Yeah.
So we could.
I'm curious, does anybody think that our recommendation to the board will have make any difference at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Isn't this the first time they're asking you your opinion on something? Didn't I just?
Yes, well, this is the first time this letter came to us.
I think that's.
Should
I
as a district.
think that's a pretty big deal.
Any comment has an impact on the commissioners. The commissioners have a discretionary, the other 2 times they were bound by legal regulations to make the decision. This time it's a discretionary decision that they can make. So any comment that you have will influence or allow them to make their decision. Even though it's not in regards to those 7. Our attorney is going to comment on all of those 7 agreements. So that will go into the file. Whatever comment the board decides, which I believe John had an excellent statement, will be noted by the commissioners.
Okay. So my motion then is that the board draft a new letter with a few direct points that John brought up, and the 2 members of the board draft that letter.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'd second.
Is there additional discussion on the motion?
No, get it.
I just hope, and I forget your name, Tim. I just hope you'll do as Tim mentioned, the remand letter gives you 3 options: to approve, modify, or deny. And I think you should express
where you are with those three options. In other words, you either seek to deny or modify. That needs to be part of your letter.
Yes, yes. I would like to amend my motion. Can I amend the motion?
Sure.
I amend the motion that the board draft a new letter that to recommend that the commissioners deny the applicants.
Yeah, and the verbiage is in the letter.
That's specifically.
Oh, yes.
I just have a quick comment pertaining to fire and firefighting and access to water. It's not crystal clear to me, is there any water in that 1,000,000-gallon tank right today? Does anybody know?
You'd have to ask Robert.
Okay.
You ask the supervisor at the Public Works Building, he could tell you.
Okay.
Just give him a call.
Okay, and then, last year I was with the understanding, it has to do with the fires that they had, now I'm with the understanding that there was does anybody know here, with you guys with the fire board, know if there was a fire at McCready Springs last summer when they had all this 30-mile-an-hour east winds and it was 90 degrees outside? Was there a fire up there? And who put it out? The way I understand it, the railroad was there first, and then the Forest Service showed up later. Anyway, I went in and I thanked the people at the railroad myself for saving our house up there, because it's only like 8 miles from our house physically.
Right to it.
And it would have gone right down the highway. But anyway, are they included in any of this? Because our place caught on fire, twice in my lifetime up there, right next to Linda's.
Mm-hmm.
And the railroad, the Forest Service, the loggers, private party, and anybody else that saw smoke was putting fires out. Now, that's land, but not structure. I get that. But the railroad, to me, they're a federally funded deal. They should be in on some of this information too for firefighting, especially today, the way things are. Just as, I know it doesn't have to do with this.
Well, I know the railroad is cooperating with the Forest Service on a lot of.
Oh, yeah.
They have run some train cars out.
Oh, yeah.
Big tank,
Modified,
big
denied,
water.
what?
Yeah, but anyway.
And I also know they started a fair number of fires coming.
They
down.
actually have water trucks that run on the railroad
Well,
and
they have
behind.
cars too.
Yeah.
So what was that gentleman's name? Robert?
Robert
Robert.
Christman.
Yeah, I don't, you brought Robert, I don't know his, I
Okay,
used to
Sid.
know his last name, but I can't
Christman.
remember it right now.
Robin Christmas.
You know Robert's last name?
Yeah, Christman.
What?
Christman.
You got his number?
I'm texting him right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted,
Alright.
because of this fire season coming up, the humidity's already
Well,
going
we've
down.
got a fire weather watch coming in today till.
Till Wednesday.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's good.
It's till Wednesday.
Of course, I would assume that the chief knows that.
What?
I would assume that the chief knows the status of the water at the 1,000,000-gallon tank. I would assume that the chief or the ops chief or somebody knows it,
Okay.
I would assume they have water in it,
but God, we can't assume that, I guess.
because the structures do better if they're full
I
of
don't
water.
want to.
That's where the water's
I
coming
know we were- all
from.
right.
But that's, it's an interest of the resident.
Right,
Legitimate question.
At the end of the.
Okay, are we ready for the question?
I just want to clarify something before we move on. They say, in the letter, is your comment, this remand application necessitates a public hearing of commissioners to approve, modify, or deny the application. I don't think, going back to your comment about getting in an area that's out of our purview, when we start using language like that, that's just for the commissioners. The remand application necessitates a public hearing with Lane County Board of Commissioners to approve, modify, and deny So I don't think we could use that language in this letter.
Well, we
It-
could
it puts
recommend,
us-
we could recommend the action that we would like them to take based on our experience and our
No,
concerns.
you can't. All you can say is, here, it's gonna impact the district in these areas, and we agreed we would do. But you start putting stuff like that, you're out of your purview, they'll reject it right away. I don't know whether they would or not, but
Whether you want to speak.
I was just gonna say, they will not reject it. They have to take, like I said, they have to take all comments. And if it came from a fire district that said, we want to deny the application because we feel it would impact our fire district too much on this, on this water, EMS, et cetera. But you don't have to, if you're not comfortable saying.
you don't have to, we don't have to use those words.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, good. I appreciate your experience and having worked with this.
And I also, in the letter, talk about what ask that these are our concerns, what can we do to mitigate
Yeah,
those
that's
concerns?
right.
Yeah.
Why say the word mitigate? Okay.
Okay,
All right, so that's
Okay.
applicable. So, okay.
We're ready for the question.
Follow-up question to
Question.
modify the letter.
Joan, yea or nay?
my motion included a recommending denial. So if the board is now not comfortable with that in motion, I would modify the motion to remove recommending denial. Can I do
I
that?
would be more
That's the
comfortable with that.
question. Are we gonna recommend denial?
These are our interests that they need to be mitigated. And if the mitigation is denying the permit, that is possible as well. Okay, so would you please read the motion?
All right. I move that the board draft a letter with a few direct points as discussed. And that a few board members work on it, 2 board members work on it together.
And it's been seconded,
Second.
John seconded. Call for the question. Joan,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Skip,
Aye.
aye. Passed unanimously by the board members present. Thank you for spending the time with us. It's
Thank you
one
for
of
your
those
time.
5-minute
Yeah, it
meetings
was
that takes an
helpful.
hour and a
Thank
half.
you for your comment.
Very much.
Appreciate it. You're welcome
Yeah,
to
thank you very much.
I will come to more board meetings.
continue to enjoy the
I'm
ambience.
gonna
or-
Now you know what we do, yeah.
Very good information. Thank you very much for your service.
All right, rip your head off.
Get a mask on that dog.
Each night, Joe, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
West Virginia.
I
Now we have one more item.
Well,
I know that. I'm guessing
I'm always willing.
Okay.
Yes. I'll
No,
sit down and
we just
have a
discussed who would do.
I
who would
think
work
we
on
can,
it.
I think we can work on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to do it on Monday.
We recommend denial. That's about all we can say.
Yeah, but I don't think we should recommend.
Herbert's going away for the weekend.
No. I think we should.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the board's preference. I don't think it's best to make a recommendation like that.
All right, well, you know,
And these guys will,
I
I mean, the effects of everything directly on.
Yeah, and, you know.
Thank you all. We need to
Okay,
accept
got
that.
it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know anybody.
Okay.
I'll be outside.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll catch you.
Good, good. You'll be
I don't
good.
We represent all of the members, not just those people that just chose to come to our meeting. And I have a feeling that if we did a polling of our membership of the district, we might find out that we have a different recommendation. So I think it's legitimate for us to display our interest and ask that they be mitigated.
That's right.
And I think denial could be the only mitigation they can come up with. But I doubt that.
Well, they gotta fix these things, and I'm glad that we had Jones' letter to start with, because it showed us what we needed to address. And if we gotta stay out of the political arena, or we'll be dragged into it.
Well, we just need to stick in what's germane to our.
Well, you asked what the city was gonna do. That city administration and the fire chiefs that were there are no longer here. So they didn't do anything. We now have new people on the city and the council. I don't know what they're, I know some of them are against it, but I don't know what they're.
Yeah, I don't think they're.
We gotta trust the commissioners to do the right thing.
And maybe they'll do it as individuals.
Okay,
Okay, I'll work
Okay.
with Jones on the letter.
good. I have two business items I want to bring up quickly, which Skip has brought to volunteers to serve on the budget committee. I have reviewed their applications, and I recommend that we include them in the budget committee.
Well, okay, now they serve a term. They serve a term.
Yes,
I think it's a 4-year term.
okay, I'm
We
okay
have
with
to
that.
tell them. I have to tell them. I don't have that information right here.
Okay. Do you have the same stuff? She has the same stuff I have.
Oh, no, that's it. Right.
What are their names?
Jean Lord and Vernon Beard.
Okay, that's where they're.
That's very
That was the guy who
big.
was just here.
Anybody working in pressure can't do it. You know, I worked in the woods for 40 years, and we've never had a fire start from a rock project.
I worked with him. So,
But,
You never
okay.
had a fire start from a quarry?
You've had one from a third start?
What did you just say?
I said, we've never had a fire from a rock quarry.
Okay.
And not only that, they're required to have a suppression.
Or you could have a fall injury or something like that.
Well,
But
the
they need
difference
to remove the
between
trees.
injuries,
They need to remove the trees before they can.
anyway, I realize it's very important to the people who are directly impacted. And I want to be sensitive to that. But I also need to be sensitive to what is our appropriate role and reflect the views and values of the rest of the members of the district.
Okay,
I think this is.
so, you want to make, so we have one more item to discuss.
Yes, let's do it.
Did you want to make a motion?
I don't think I need a motion. I think that we read the last board meeting that Skip would get or anybody would get the recommendations filled out on the form. I would review them and recommend them.
Okay, no, I think we need to approve it, so.
Okay,
Okay. Is it the sense,
I think,
we could just say that, is it the sense of board is to accept their recommendation, those people.
I gotta come down here and see where my taxpayer money's being.
okay, good for you.
Oh, there's some.
You see some of that money around, let me know.
You
I
can
got
take
it.
a,
I sense it coming my way.
you can take a shower in there if you want to.
Yeah, I think I need a motion.
Kathy would probably approve of that.
All right,
Okay,
You guys,
buddy.
you got it
Go
under
ahead.
control.
Budget committee, okay.
All right.
So, when the chief gets back, we'll get, those people should get some information about how we budget and what the rules are
Joan?
before they come to the meeting, so.
That's their applications.
Okay, it's been moved that we recommend to the chief and approve the membership of the budget committee of these two names. Is there a second to the motion?
Second it.
Been moved and seconded. Is there discussion on the motion? All hearing none, we will go to the voting. Joan? John?
All right.
Skip?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously by the board members present. Now we're ready to move on to, the template for the SDAO.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
item 2. Okay, now this, I'll bring up this one again, and you all, I sent you all copies of this,
Yeah.
and he has it here if you need it. So SDAO is telling all its member districts that the state has received or is receiving its share of the American Rescue Plan Act, the big tax plan that the federal government did to send out payments to help cities and counties, et cetera. Special districts were not included as entities. So if we want that included, they're urging, SDAO is urging its member districts to lobby and send a letter, and they prepared letters, draft letters. I printed one of the draft letters, and it needs to have things filled out. In other words, your district name and how would you use the funds to support your community. And any infrastructure projects you would undertake. Building out our roads, we could use the money to finish our fire station. Build it out. Why are we waiting for the Forest Service to provide somebody to work up there? This is our plan, let's just do it instead of waiting and waiting for Dennis Bird. So, if anyone wants to work on this, John and I are kind of busy right now. If anyone wants to work on this, they have a list of, they have the names of contact?
Yeah, sure, I'll work on it.
All right,
That would be good.
all right.
You wanna
I'll give
me
you a
this
copy. I'll give you a copy.
All right.
I'll go make a copy of it.
Now, let me make a comment about this. I don't know why the city, and you said in the meeting, why they didn't want to participate in this grant.
So I'm not 100% sure, but if that's a SDAO grant, the city would not qualify because the city is not a special district.
Right.
However,
The city is getting their own money. They're getting, I think, about $600,000 out of this.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but we have gotten COVID funding from the government, and that's how we've been hosting the COVID clinics here. That's through federal funding.
But this is new funding.
Yeah.
It might be $600,000. I thought that's what the chief said.
you see the link here is that we get services from Oak Ridge. You can't perform those services if you don't have the people to perform them. And according to the way this thing works, I think that when the COVID pandemic affected this whole operation, you had to cut down on your forces and supplement them with some other force. Namely, you had to call for Dexter and other people to come help you. You see, that's the logic hookup. Now, we don't know a thing about what you all had to do because of COVID.
We never really called, we didn't have mutual aid come stand by the station or anything like that. We did have an outbreak here at the station where I think it was 6 or 7 of our staff came down with COVID positive at the same time. And so we were fairly limited or short-staffed, but it didn't affect operations. We weren't as far as we were able to handle all the emergency calls that came up.
So you're getting money from the government through another source. And I guess we don't have a legitimate action that we had to take because of COVID.
Certainly Hazeldell.
Hazeldell would.
Joan and I talked a little bit on the phone and
Okay.
she laughed at my response, but we didn't incur anything extra. I don't think, we don't have anything to be reimbursed for or to supplement it. And at some point in time, we're going to have to pay all this money back. And I'd like to make sure that if it's spent on something worthwhile. And, currently, all of the volunteers in Hazeldell could meet in a phone booth. To make an investment up in the station to accommodate that, I think is way premature.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm okay with whatever you guys want to do.
Wait, this is a loan?
It's a what?
Oh, grant's not a loan, grant free for nothing.
It doesn't matter. it's I mean, is it a good use of the public money?
Yeah, and
I mean, just because we can get it, you know, I felt guilty when I took my money that they mailed to me and
Oh, me too,
so
me
I went
too.
out and
Yeah, I said, you know, yeah, that didn't impact me,
I think that was a waste of money.
but that was
Took my wife
terrible.
out to dinner.
no, you gotta support the economy.
Yeah, well, I promised to spend it all, but
But not yet, we didn't go, haven't been out to spend it yet.
yeah.
Well,
So I
Eric,
don't think that this money needs to be sent back. There's nothing about this. We're just saying there's leftover money and the city's getting a whole lot for it. What can we do? We can.
Well, maybe we can study it and look at it.
okay, you can make a
And
recommendation.
and we come to the next meeting, I'll give you a report on what I think about that.
The next meeting is next week.
That's
So
okay.
We're gonna be meeting on the 22nd.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is, you know, there is, the city is spending, some of that money on, a lot of PPE, personal protective equipment, sorry, face masks, gloves, gowns, those kind of things. And we respond to not only citizens within the city, but we respond to Hazeldell citizens. So we are spending money due to COVID in the Hazeldale Fire District. So that's where some of this funding is coming from and we get reimbursed from.
So we can
So-
put money into that.
I'll look it over and
it really doesn't have anything to do with COVID, though. You'd have to buy the stuff anyway.
We're just using a lot more of it. And
I'm just in my cheapskate. So if you really don't need it, it's just because it's
Yeah, I agree with you.
dollars.
Well, let me look at it and then and you can tell me not to.
All right. You have a printer at home, you can print all these letters?
Oh,
Oh,
You can't.
Okay.
The people that make those printers, they said if they could make you buy their ink, we could give you the printer.
Well,
let's see what he's got, what he's doing.
I'm gonna give you that.
Okay.
I already spent them.
It seems like there's a delay.
Oh, this
Could
is
be.
an example of a letter, right, okay, here's another example. Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
you see the letter, you see
all
the,
right, no, I didn't see this one, okay,
which one?
this one from the city administrator saying the city would be doing. Okay, I had talked to the minutes. They won't be, okay, that's fine. Right.
So you're gonna,
I'm not gonna send anybody any letters or anything, I'm just gonna report to you guys.
that's right, and then what your opinion is
Right,
after studying all of this
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm gonna say, this is what I found out studying this.
Okay.
Okay, that's the one for the government.
You're not
I'll make
taking any of
copies.
my papers,
No,
are
I'm
you?
not taking it.
If there's a provision that we can have pizza and beer for a year out of this.
All right,
No,
good.
no.
I'll call you
I'm
sometime.
All right.
for that.
So the Skip is going to, Skip will take a look at,
Do a staff study.
study the request and see. You know, we don't need to go respond to this, other special districts to respond, and maybe we'll get something even if we don't respond.
Where's the paper?
Okay, can we move to adjourn?
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Those in favor, aye, we are adjourned.
Well, we all here know this, we're pretty doggone.
I know, she's been really trooper.
Start over again.
I'm surprised.